Good evening, everybody. Can I please welcome everyone to the meeting of the North Whiteley Development Forum. The time is now 6 o'clock. This meeting is being held under regulations which come into effect on the 4th of April 2020 in response to the COVID-19 situation. My name is Councillor Vivian Atchwell and I'm chairperson of this forum. There are a few housekeeping reminders to run through as a new working practices in response to the regulations. First of all, please can I ask everyone present in this virtual meeting that your microphones remain muted and your camera is turned off whilst you're not addressing the meeting, as this will help reduce the background noise and avoid any unintentional disturbances. Please can I also advise that the meeting is being audio recorded and live streamed from the council's website. In addition to a video recording of the meeting will be uploaded to the council's YouTube channel after the meeting. Members and officers, when appropriate for each item, please use the chat function of the meeting to indicate that you wish to speak or to raise a point of order or explanation, and I will invite you to then speak at the appropriate time. Some members may not have access to this chat function, so I'll ask you to use the raise a hand function. Each member will be invited to speak in turn. Therefore, I would encourage all members to keep your contributions as clear and concise as possible. When speaking and referring to the agenda papers, please make sure that you'll reference the page or the paragraph number. Thank you very much. Please note the duration of this virtual meeting is planned for 2 hours. Finally, if members wish to leave the meeting at any point, could they please make themselves known to me through the chat function. I will announce to the meeting that you are leaving the meeting. Please could I now ask Democratic Services Officer Matthew to undertake a roll call of members to confirm who is present this evening. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Members, if you wouldn't mind unmuting your microphone and turning on your camera, I'll do a very quick roll call. I'll start with the Winchester City Council councillors. Councillor Atchwell.
Present.
Councillor Bentote.
Present.
Councillor Evans.
Present.
Councillor Gemmell. I'll return to Councillor Gemmell, Chair. I haven't seen her join yet. Councillor Lumby.
Present.
Councillor Miller.
Present.
Moving on to the Hampshire County councillors, Councillor Woodward.
Yes, I'm here.
And Councillor Huxter.
Present.
Fareham Borough Council, Councillor Butts.
Yes, I'm present.
And Eastleigh Borough Council, Councillor Pretty.
I'm here. Thank you.
Whiteley Town Council, Councillor Evans. Councillor Evans, I think I've seen Councillor Evans join, but I'll come back to Councillor Evans, Chair.
Okay.
Oh, he's just popped on the screen.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Evans.
Thanks, Matthew.
Botley Parish Council, Councillor Mercer sent his apologies, Chair. And finally, Curdridge Parish Council, Councillor Bodger.
I'm present, but I still have to leave for a council meeting at 7.
Thank you. I'll just return for a moment to Councillor Gemmell. Okay, no indication of Councillor Gemmell, Chair. So that's all members present. Apologies from Councillor Mercer, and we'll follow up with Councillor Gemmell.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Now can you, would you mind just reading out the officers who are present, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, a few officers on the call, Chair, for this evening's meeting. So from Winchester City Council, we've got Julie Pinnock, Service Lead for the Built Environment, and Hilary Oliver, Implementation Officer. I've seen Steve Hearn from Concept Town Planning join, Tim Burgess from Hampshire County Council, Ray Alborough from Hampshire County Council Highways, and Jeff Davis from Tetra Tech. We'll also be joined at around 6:30 Chair by Sarah Tiller from the CCG. She'll be joining at 6:30. That's all the external partners, I think, Chair. And finally, Chair, just before I hand back, we've got a number of members of the public join this evening. So I've seen Sharon McKinder, Councillor Hazel Croft-Phillips, Jonathan Marmont and Sarah Hughes. There's one other member of the public I haven't seen join yet, but I'll check. It's Monica Rezakova.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I can see there's some people waiting in the lobby, so.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you very much. So just start with the agenda. So do we have, can you just repeat who the apologies were for tonight, please, Matthew?
Sorry, Chair, yes, just Councillor Mercer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Chairman, there's also one apology from a Hampshire County Council officer, namely Martin Shefford. He sends his apologies.
All right, thank you. Actually, I also had one from Ben Clifford yesterday, Hampshire County Council officer, while I remember.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, could I introduce myself? Nick Yarrow from Hampshire County Council Property Services, also regarding the primary school.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair.
So now we go on to agenda item number 2, Chairman's announcements. My first announcement this evening is regarding Farnborough Councillor, a member of the Forum, Councillor Keith Evans. Mr Evans passed away in December, and on behalf of the Forum, I'd like to thank him for the work he did at the Forum and want to pass on our condolences to his family. Item number 3. There will now be 10 minutes allowed for members of the public to ask questions, and hopefully some of the officers may be able to answer the questions today. If not, we will come back to you. So the first person to ask questions is Sharon McKinder. Sharon, are you there, please?
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm here.
Hi, would you like to put your camera on as well, Sharon, if you don't mind?
Which is the camera? No, I can't. It won't let me do my camera, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I can only speak.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we just basically wanted to ask a question about footpaths on Botley Road.
Okay.
Whether there was going to be anything put in place between the new Curbridge Meadows development and joining the footpath just up by the Burridge recreational ground.
Okay.
We have seen people walking along the road, and it's quite a dangerous part of the. It's not a lot of it, but it's quite dangerous, and people have been walking with dogs to get onto the pathway to walk down Botley Road, and we didn't know whether there was anything in place to sort of come off the development to walk that way at all.
All right, thank you very much. I think what we'll do, we'll run through the questions for now, and we get officers to try and come back after we've finished all the questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So next question is from Councillor Hazel Croft-Phillips.
It says turn camera off. Oh.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good evening. Thank
Hi.
you. During many of the meetings Whiteley Town Council had with the various developers and the consortium, the question of building a home for wildlife was discussed. Later, help for wildlife was included in reserved matters in various planning applications and permissions. Please could we have an update on some of these matters, specifically bird boxes, bat boxes and spaces, hedgehog corridors, help for dormice, etc. What has been done so far, and who is monitoring the help for wildlife? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Hazel. Thank you. And next person is Jonathan Marmount.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Jonathan. Hi.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. My question is related to a development just to the east of the new primary school, just off of Bluebell Way. There's a generator sited just off Bluebell Way, just round the corner, that runs overnight and over the weekend. That's really quite loud and can be heard from the existing homes in Whiteley. I was just wondering how long that needs to be run for, whether or not it was possible to quieten it down a little bit or move it further to the northeast away from the existing development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And next person on the list is Sarah Hughes. Hi, Sarah. Sarah, are you there? I see it's Steve Hughes. I don't know if that's the same family. Matthew, are you able to help at all?
Yeah, I can. Well, it looks to me that they're in the meeting, Chair, so there may be some issue there, but I don't know if we can move on to the answers to some of those questions, and I'll make some comments.
We haven't got Monica on here then.
No sign of Monica either. I'll follow that one up as well. Just to let you know, Chair, just before I finish, Councillor Gemmell joined, and so is Mr. Clark, who's the head teacher of the primary school. Just in the meeting as well.
All right, thank you very much. So would any of the officers like to try and answer some of the questions, please, that are present? So the first one was regarding footpaths.
Chair, I believe she's talking about a footpath coming from the northern access junction down. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, no, there is no plans to put in a footpath down that part of the Botley Road as part of this development.
Okay. Okay. Sharon,
sorry, can I just jump in? Can you tell me then how the council feel about the safety of the public? Because there is most definitely going to be an accident either with cyclists or people with young children walking that small distance from the Kerbridge end of the development to walk into Botley to, you know.
Oh, sorry, maybe I can just jump in. There is a footpath that's not finished yet. So there is going to be a dedicated footpath up to the train station. That's only, you know, it's not complete at all yet.
No, I think you're talking about the south end. North end.
No, that's the north end. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking about the south end.
Okay, is that something we can look into in the future, Hilary?
Well, there will be a footpath going through the development that will go up to the northern access junction, and then you can catch the cycle path that will go from the northern access junction through to Botley train station.
Will that go south?
There'll be routes all the way through from the northern access junction into the southern area. So there will be a footpath that goes all the way through the development.
Hi, Julie. Would you like to assist?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, why don't we, as an action from this meeting, publish a plan showing the approved footpath links through the site, and then anything beyond the site is actually a matter for Hampshire County Council as the Highway Authority. So we could perhaps correlate those two matters and bring them together, Chair.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because we do have a map, don't we?
We do.
Yeah. Is that
as part of our minutes, couldn't we, and show where the approved footways through the sites are and anything else, and then we can follow up from there, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Is that okay, Sharon?
That's perfect. Thank you. That'd be very helpful.
Okay, thank you for your question. That's very helpful. And who would like to answer regarding the wildlife, the bird boxes, etc.? Hilary, is that you again? Or was there one of the developers here?
Yeah, we had this question, I think, at a previous meeting, and I think in the minutes we had some pictures of the bird boxes that were being installed on site. So they are being installed, and there are hedgehog carriageways going through the site as well, holes in walls to enable that to happen. But yes, we are monitoring that on site.
Okay, so yes, Julie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. All I would just add is, yeah, Hilary will be monitoring that as our implementation officer, but also we expect the developer to do that as a matter of course in accordance with their approved plans. There are various conditions that expect that to occur in accordance with the approval.
Okay, thank you. Hazel, I hope that meets with what you asked.
Thank you very much, Chair.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the question. And who would like to talk regarding the generator noise that's happening at the moment? Hilary, is that you again, or is that the developer?
Give it a go, yeah. Yeah, we haven't spoken to the developer. I don't think it can be moved at the moment. It's serving one particular parcel, if it's the generator we think it is. But I think it will be a question of we'll do some site visits to double check that, to see what the noise levels are, because this is the first complaint we've had. So we'll do some checks on whether that noise is excessive and whether there's any muffling that can be done to try and minimise that. The development around where the generator is coming along really quickly, so you might find the noise becomes less because the build around it is going to muffle some of that sound.
Okay, is that does that help at all, Mr. Mormont?
Thank you, appreciate it. Yes, thanks.
Okay, perhaps we could give an update to Mr. Mormont once we've had that.
Yes, yeah, I'll get in contact with him so that we can keep in touch about that one.
That's
Thank
great.
you very much.
No, thank you. Thanks for the question. Matthew, have you got Sarah back at all?
No, Chair, we haven't. We're trying to get in touch. I mean, I don't know whether it's acceptable, Chair, but I mean, I've got the text of the questions from both Sarah and Monica. If it helps, I can read that out.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that's fine.
At least it's on the record there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the question from Sarah Hughes was, I'd like to ask about school buses, particularly Henry Court buses. Will they be extended to the new development? Current stop is Tesco, end of Bluebell Way. Could it be extended to full length of the road? Also, will this area be catchment area for Henry Court? The developers couldn't answer these questions, and it would be good to have an answer. So that was the question from Sarah. And the question from Monica Rezakova was, I live in Whiteley and my kids go to Cornerstone Primary, which is to relocate to North Whiteley. There is at present only a very muddy path connecting Dumas Drive and the school site. There are a lot of families living in this part of Whiteley and would like to walk to school, and this is not possible at present. Would the path be sorted, at least gravelled, before September? Otherwise, this would massively increase the traffic through Whiteley and push a lot of us to drive instead of walk.
Okay, thank you very much. So who would like to answer the regarding the school bus to Henry Court?
Chair, perhaps I can. I'm Ray Alborough. This is my first time at the meeting, so
okay.
Forgive me for not knowing the full protocol, but in terms of the bus service, the school transport service at the County Council have advised it is not their intention at the moment to extend the service beyond the Tesco roundabout. They advised me that the cost might be prohibitive. The roundabout provides a convenient turn for the buses, and there will be at least a safe walk from that location up to the new school. The second matter of the catchment area for the college, that is not changing, I understand. Hopefully that will answer those questions satisfactorily.
Okay. So is no intention at all to extend that bus service into North Whiteley?
Not at the moment.
Right.
Obviously, this is we're at a fairly early stage in the sense that the road up to the school is under construction. The road itself, also the school itself, is not under construction. So I think that's more a longer term issue. I'm talking about what's known as the secondary school site on the development, rather than the cornerstone primary school. And I can perhaps refer or try and answer the question relating to the muddy path.
Okay.
The muddy path is, as I'm sure we're probably all aware, an existing public right-of-way. This was raised internally at Hampshire County Council in the last fortnight, and colleagues of mine have been providing an estimate for the cost of the works. We're looking somewhere in the order of £25,000 to £30,000 to do the works, and we are trying to find money internally to pay for the works as and when, and hopefully they'll be completed by the time the school is open in September. But at the moment we're still trying to find the funding, so there's no guarantee that they will be finished, but that would certainly be the aim.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we go on to minutes, item number 4. Minutes of the previous meeting held on the 16th of November 2020. We have pages 7 to 10. Are these minutes agreed?
Agreed.
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 Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We now move on to item number 5, progress of the primary school.
Good evening, Chair. Can I introduce myself? Hello, Chair. Hello, everyone. If I can introduce myself, I'm Nick Yarrow from Hampshire Property Services. I'm the delivery manager responsible for the new build Cornerstone Primary School project and the relocation. Just a very quick update to everyone. The school contractor, Midas, continues to make good progress despite difficult weather conditions and challenging COVID-19 restrictions and Brexit arrangements. The contractor is currently reporting works are on programme and the school will be ready in time to be operational for this September as planned. We've recently visited site with a limited number of the school's senior leadership team, observing social distancing restrictions, and the school and the diocese are pleased with what they've seen. So everything is going to programme and is on programme currently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you, if you don't mind, I have a question. Do you know when do they plan to start moving in to the school?
That will be during the July period and August period. That's something that the school will start relocating. So once they finish in their temporary school, that they will then start moving that furniture at the end of the term, and maybe the head teacher Tim might be able to expand on that, but that's the plan at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Tim, would you like to expand on that at all? I know you're on the meeting.
Yes, good evening, Vivian. I'll put the hand back down now. Yeah, there's a whole range of different aspects involved with relocating. As Nick has mentioned there, part of that is the actual physical elements that we've got on our current site, both internally and externally. But there's also, new additional furniture. There's a whole new phone systems, IT infrastructure, huge amount of conversations and work going on. The plan is that the developers, Midas on site, who are building the school for us, will be handing it to Hampshire, who will then hand it to us early July. the plan is that we will then spend the last 2 or 3 weeks of school term, myself, caretaker, and a couple of other staff, doing some of the initial health and safety and policies and making sure that's all in place. But basically, the moving over is going to happen, as Nick said, over a period of probably 6-7 weeks between July and August, because partly it's what we've already got on our site and partly it's new things. But we are, as Nick has mentioned, we are confident that we'll be in a position to open for children at the beginning of September, and very excited about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. We are too. Just have a couple of questions. Councillor Woodward, have a question?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Obviously delighted to hear the news on the school reaching fruition, and it's certainly coming on well from having had a look at the buildings a day or two ago. But I just wanted to add a little bit of weight on the footpath issue that was raised earlier. I think it is a very important one. It's something I raised with the County Council very recently, as a number of residents have approached me about it. And of course, these are residents in the Fareham borough, and therefore in my County Council division, who can see the school almost. It is a bit yucky trying to get there. And I think it is very important because there will be people there going to Cornerstone currently, will go to it in the future. And it is quite a significant drive around. And it really would be a great pity if, for the sake of, 100 yards of tarmac or whatever it takes, scalpings, to be able to create a path which people can arrive clean and tidy at school and having had a pleasant walk as well. I think it is really important to do, and I think it would sit very poorly if we didn't achieve that as a county council and expected people to drive to school again, because there isn't going to be a lot of provision for parents to be driving to Cornerstone. So I just wanted to say it is important that is done, and of course that it is done by September.
Yeah, and I think also we want, obviously, pupils and parents to get into the habit of walking to school, not drive.
Yes, it's and building that culture. So there are discussions with, to echo the councillor's comments there, are the Hampshire County Council Safer Routes to School team, the Hampshire Countryside team, Children's Services and our Highways team. They're in discussions with the master developer and the consortium and their consultants, Tetra Tech, to ensure that they meet those Section 106 obligations with that infrastructure. I'm more than happy to, if we could produce a drawing to show those footpath links, I think in a drawing rather than trying to describe it, because that is quite a complex thing to try and picture. So there is that dialogue that is currently happening, and we can provide a drawing following the meeting just to show where those discussions are, as I say, with Tetra Tech and the consortium. Does that answer your question?
That would be really helpful. Thank you.
Okay,
so the sooner that can be done, the better.
And we can forward that via Children's Services onto you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Evans, you have your hand up.
I did, Chairman. Can I just be reminded of the number of pupils that are expected at the primary school? Presumably there will be some newer ones coming with the housings being currently built.
I think Tim, the head teacher, Tim Clark, may be best to answer that in terms of the numbers.
Yes, thank you, Nick. So essentially, we will be built as a 3-form entry school, so we will have capacity for up to 650 children, but we are going to be going through a sort of staged growth, and it's very much dependent on the demand from North Whiteley development. So we already currently have 3 children from the North Whiteley development who are with us in our current temporary site. In terms of exactly how many classes will be opened each year, that's something that we will have to agree with Hampshire's admissions team, the Children's Services admissions team, and they've told us they will be having conversations with us April and May each year to say how many classes they need us to open. So it is It is a really worthwhile question. I imagine this is the question I'm going to get asked lots by prospective parents over the coming 4, 5, 6 years. The challenge really is, although we've got the space and we would love to fill up nice and quickly, obviously it's about a funding issue, because we can only open a class when we've actually got the funding. And if the children are funded in a current school elsewhere, then the funding doesn't come to us until sort of 12, 18 months later. So it's all based on the October census. So the idea is to try and make sure in April and May, Hampshire and the governing body of the school come to agreement about how many classes they want us to open in the following academic year. And what we would hope is to make sure that there's a few spaces available in each of the classes, so that anyone who during the course of the year wants a space, we can then offer it. But it is going to be a tricky process, because there will be times when we're not full, and then that has a big implication on us from a funding point of view. And there will be other times when all the classes that we've got open are full, and we've potentially got a waiting list and people saying, well, you've got extra classes, why can't you open up? But it does basically come down to having the funding to actually provide the staff to safely run those classes. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. And Councillor Butts, you have a question?
Oh, good evening. Just like to emphasise the part about the muddy path to the school on behalf of the Ferren Borough Council as well. That is obviously something which is supported walking to school. So just to echo that sentiment and request a copy of the drawings too, please. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Do we have any debate at all, members? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yarrow. Hope to see you.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Hope to see you at the future meeting.
Thank you very much.
The drawings. Thank you very much. We now go on to agenda item number 6, which is the extension to Whiteley Surgery Car Park. And we have Sarah Tiller, I believe, has just joined us from CCG. Is that correct, Matthew? Hello, Sarah. Welcome to the meeting.
Hello.
I believe you're going to give us an update regarding the car park at Whiteley Surgery.
Yes, I think so. I wasn't quite sure exactly what. So, and I think someone has joined from the landlord.
Good.
Steve, okay.
Good
Hi,
evening.
Steve.
It's Stephen Hearn from Concept Town Planning. I'm the agent acting on behalf of the landlord.
Okay. All right.
Right. So I'm not quite sure what it is you need from me. I'm sorry. Does Stephen, do you want to go first? And
yeah, I'll be more than happy with that. It's a straightforward, brief update, really. As members will be aware, the application was refused back in July last year on a couple of grounds relating to the biodiversity of the woodland and the potential impact upon species. We've been instructed as of August to try and address those issues. We've visited site towards the end of last year just to reassess the woodland, really, and to look at how we're going to overcome the reasons that were raised with the previous application. We've got a survey being undertaken, a topographical survey, just taking in the wider woodland. That's going to be carried out next month, early next month, and then there'll be additional ecology assessments, and the arborist is going to have a reassessment of the woodland. But the ultimate intention is that we'll hope on the back of those surveys that we'll have addressed the issues that were raised, and we'll be looking to resubmit the application come April, towards the middle of end of April if we're lucky.
Okay, thank you very much. You just both wait on the line. I think Councillor Woodward has a question. Councillor Woodward.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll touch very briefly on the car park, but I'm going to hijack Sarah's presence in this meeting, which I'm sure she wouldn't just want to come and talk about a proposed surgery car park extension, but her role is much more significant in terms of healthcare. But where the car park is concerned, I did check, actually wearing my Ferren Borough Council hat with planning officers before this meeting, just out of curiosity to see if there'd been any discussions whatsoever, and they said there had been none from anybody since the planning refusal, which happened. And obviously I would not seek to preempt a future planning application, but it has been made extremely and abundantly clear by Fairham's planning officers that this is not an acceptable proposal. And that's what brings me to the point really of my intervention, Sarah. Obviously healthcare is a critical issue anywhere at the moment, all times and previously, and especially in Whiteley. And I know there is a lot of disappointment I hear from my constituents, and I'm sure I wouldn't be at all surprised if other councillors jump in as well, at the lack of a specific dedicated healthcare provision for the north of Whiteley. And I know that many requests have been made by this forum for NHS involvement in the forum to actually talk about this, because I bear the scars, as it were, of Wellbourne, and the insistence that we made as a council and as the developers as well, that there will be something there, calling it a health and well-being hub, which will be available for health-related use. And of course in Whiteley we know that Whiteley surgery is extremely full, it's extremely busy, and it doesn't have any space to expand, apart from obviously into some of the rooms upstairs perhaps. It's certainly totally inadequate in terms of car parking and access, and I just cannot for the life of me understand why no request by the NHS was made, by the CCG was made, for any form of separate built healthcare provision in the north, in the development north of Whiteley. So sorry to hijack things on that topic.
It's okay. I think
the subject was more important perhaps than a car park.
Yes, I wonder if you can help with an answer, Sarah.
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, Councillor Woodward, building a healthcare facility for relatively small numbers of people, it just isn't the territory that we are able to support currently. So the kind of rate limiting factor, of course, is the availability of the healthcare staff and the GPs particularly, and also the model of care and the way that healthcare is being delivered. So increasingly healthcare is being delivered from larger facilities with bigger groups of practices, so we know we've got the primary care networks, which are groups of practices working together, delivering their healthcare collectively. So I understand this development is 3,500 homes. We would not be making any kind of case for a separate standalone healthcare facility for that kind of number of homes. Whiteley has got the space to expand. It's got some private rooms there that will be transferred over to NHS use. It's got the ability to change around some of the use with the upstairs, is my understanding. So there is enough space, and there was always the intention that there would be enough space in the Whiteley surgery to accommodate the patients from the North Whiteley development. The big issue in order to do that is the car park, because we do acknowledge that the car park currently isn't big enough, and we'd need some further space to accommodate the new patients and their parking, hence the application. And I think that's always been the case and remains the case.
And if I could just add on to the end of that, Councillor Woodward, whilst you noted that Fareham Borough Council are opposed of it and obviously aware of the previous reason for refusal, it is intended that we will engage back with the county ecologists once we've firmed up our address of the previous reasons for refusal. So we are taking those points on board, and we feel we can provide extra information to address those concerns.
Okay. I may just one response, if I may, briefly, Chairman, to Sarah.
Just briefly, if you don't mind.
Of course, the issue was Whiteley surgery was indeed built to cater for Whiteley and a possible extension to Whiteley, it was not built to cater for the population of Loxheath. And of course, that's what changed when the Loxheath surgery closed, and all of those many thousands of patients were transferred into Whiteley as well. And I think that's where the real pressure has come from. And of course, they must all drive. There is no scope whatever for them to walk.
My understanding, though, is that the space that will be vacated will accommodate an additional 9,000 patients onto the list. So that should be sufficient given the size of this latest development.
Okay, I think Councillor Butts had a question.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, very much on the same point. The Loxheath pressure is real, and we see that every day. And the 3,500 is a single number for the new development, is a single number, but it's a bigger picture of the current Whiteley load and the Loxheath load on a restricted site next to the woodland. So there is a real issue to look at beyond the number of 3,500. The issue with the woodland is not new. That was being flagged for actually many years. And when the CI 106 was agreed 2 or 3 years ago, that was raised by me at that meeting, that was an issue that was being effectively ignored and brushed under the carpet. There's always been a reluctance to accept the fact that the woodland is protected and that we can plough on with the building and the car park plan. Now, we'll see how the planning submission goes second time around. But what we have also asked for, which I asked for at a meeting this time last year, was for the CCG to be invited to this forum to simply be able to explain to the public who attend these meetings, many of whom would have been here tonight actually if they'd had a formal notice that the CCG were going to be represented, I'm sure, simply to hear the rationale for not having a facility in North Whiteley. So that request was declined by the CCG, but I'd like to make the request again, simply to ask for a CCG representative to come on to the next meeting, specifically to present the rationale. Sarah has given us the headlines of that this evening, but it's really important that the public understand why there's not a facility in mind for North Whiteley. So I'd like to ask if that would happen, please, because it's very much a democratic function, this forum, to provide the public with information about their future homes and environment. So the healthcare angle is something we would like to see given time at a future meeting with the CCG, please. And a third item on this is the developers have been very supportive, and it might be that if we as a forum were to work with the developers to identify a space and a property for a community facility, that could happen anyway, independent of the CCG, and effectively future-proof North Whiteley against a future need that currently isn't foreseen, but may arise in the future. So that's something else we could explore with the developers if the chairman would agree for that to be added to the plan for the forum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, are you able to give any response at all?
Yeah, so I mean, I am a representative of the CCG. I'm the managing director for Fareham and Gosport and South Eastern Hampshire CCGs, very soon to be part of a bigger Hampshire and Isle of Wight and Southampton CCG. So I am the managing director for your area. So, you know, I am here, and I was invited some time ago, and this has been in the diary for some time. So my apologies if you don't feel that was publicised enough. I have to say, I thought I was here just talking about the car park. If you would like me to come back and talk in more detail, perhaps with one of my clinical colleagues, about the rationale for planning around the size of healthcare facilities and where they are situated, then I'm very happy to do that at another occasion. I don't have, you know, I imagine that what you want is some real hard facts and details and some of the equations that are brought into it to bear, and the health needs assessments that are taken into account. And I can definitely come back with that, because that's the process that is gone, that, you know, that we go through. I mean, as you will know, many of you, from the issues around Wellbourne, developers may wish to put a facility that they think will be badged as healthcare, but it's much more difficult to actually attract the providers of healthcare to run something for a particular size of population, particularly with the current changes to the way healthcare is being delivered and to the shortages of staff to operate those facilities. So you know, those are all the things that we're grappling with, and I'm very happy to come and talk through some of those issues if that would be helpful.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just have sorry.
Sorry, through you, Chair. Yes, Sarah, that'd be very helpful, because for the residents, there's like an information vacuum. All they know is there isn't going to be a facility, and that it's meant to be happening in the current surgery, and they don't see that working. So the invitation is really to just open up the information sharing to them so that they're better informed and can perhaps understand the rationale that's being put forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got two more questions. People wanting to ask questions, Sarah. So Councillor Huckstep, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Am I right in inferring, Sarah, from your earlier remarks, that actually the staffing is not a problem?
The staffing, so in terms of the Whiteley surgery, they've recruited 3 new GPs in recent times, and they're now, they've got the status to become they are a training practice, so that also helps with the staffing, because I'll have trainees working there. So that is sufficient for the current time, and then they will need to recruit further staff as their patients list size grows. The issue that I was referring to, so I don't think there's any immediate issue about the staffing at the Whiteley surgery. The issue I was referring to is if you are to, all GP practices are independent businesses. You all know this, but they're contracted to the NHS. They're part of the NHS, but they are all run like a small business, and therefore they need to be financially viable. And like many things, financial viability these days comes with size, and there's also some attraction to GPs to work in a bigger unit, because there's all the kind of benefits of learning, the multi-professional team, that's much harder to run and attract people to run it from scratch in a very small, what would be a very small practice. That's the issue that I'm referring to. So a model where a development starts and it's going to have maybe 7,000 people, that's a very, very small list size really for your modern GP practice, and therefore attracting new GPs to run that is not as easy as it sounds. That was the point I was trying to make. In fact, the primary care networks are all about getting groups of practices to work together so that they get that benefit, which is about a 30,000 population, so that you get the benefits of that scale. And I mean, an absolute live example of that at the moment is the vaccination programme, because the COVID vaccination programme is being delivered by primary care networks at an absolutely amazingly, fantastically successful rate, but it comes from them collaborating across a broader population number than they would if they were all running that separately. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense, thank you. I'm thinking in particular of Hambledon. Hambledon Village Hall becomes a satellite GP service for Hambledonians. I think I'm not sure whether it's run, I think it's run from Denmead, I'm not entirely sure. But it seems to me that if there were a communal building in North Whiteley development, there'd be no reason why presumably you couldn't every Tuesday or every Thursday or Tuesday and Thursday, have a satellite surgery in the north of Whiteley for the benefit of the residents who will eventually inhabit that residential area.
You know, there are practices that have got branch surgeries, and that model you've just described is one that might have some, you know, it actually might have some viability in the future. So I think there's nothing to rule that in or out at the moment. It would be a conversation about the size of the population, the need, and what the practice themselves can deliver. Because sometimes splitting your clinical workforce across 2 sites brings risk, and some practices are reluctant to do it. But if the population growth were such, it may be that there comes a point where actually that would make sense. But I couldn't say yes to something like that now. But that is the sort of model that we've talked about in relation to Wellbourne, and which we're getting some progress on. But then that's a much bigger population over time. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't say yes or no to that, I'm afraid, but it's not a I couldn't rule it out either. If that's a very much of a politician's answer. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, but perhaps it's an option that you can cover when you come back to look at the service provision that you may be able to make in the future.
Yeah, and we have a duty to work with local communities, of which you are all representatives. So there is something about ensuring that we've got that dialogue all keep going, and that we're transparent, as a previous councillor suggested, about, you know, the rationale, what's possible at the moment, what might be possible in the future, and we want to keep that conversation going. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Councillor Trez Evans with a question.
Chairman, I think probably in answer to Councillor Huckstepp's question, my question has been answered, because it was going to be if 3,500 homes is not enough to be viable, then what is? But I think, Ms. Tiller, you've said that I've written down 30,000 would make the practice viable. Is that the number of homes? I think you're muted.
Apologies. No, not necessarily a practice. So we do have some practices with a list size of 7,000. We would consider those some of our smallest and most vulnerable practices, so most fragile, most difficult to sustain. The primary care networks, which are groups of sort of 2 or 3, sometimes 4 or 5 surgeries working together, the minimum population for those is 30,000, and we've got some that go up to a population of 78,000 in the eastern part of Hampshire. So they are about practices working together at scale to maximise that, you know, the at scale sharing of best practice, sharing of clinics, staffing where appropriate. So, for example, they might have a diabetic nurse that works across a number of those practices, rather than them all being able to sustain their own diabetic or even recruit their own diabetic nurse. But we definitely got practices that, you know, for a 7,000 population, but they are, you know, we've had a couple of practices close in recent years because they're always the small ones. They're usually a single GP. They're very fragile. It's not really the way that I was going to call it an industry. It's not an industry, but it's not really the way that healthcare is. It's not really the direction of travel.
So do you think that the current medical facilities, apart from the car parking, are adequate to treat the prospective residents of North Whiteley?
So my understanding is that there's 4 consulting rooms and a reception area that will be released as the private area is released back to the NHS. So that, and they will also be able to make some changes and use the upstairs in a different way, which will allow them enough space to accommodate the population as it grows.
Okay, thank you.
So we've got one more question for Councillor Butts.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to follow up on those numbers again. The numbers for North Whiteley 3,500. There's also a wider picture to take into account, which is there's house building going on like nobody's business, not only in Winchester, in Fareham, in Warsash, in the Eastleigh borough just over the river, Botley itself. So you've got to take into account this wider picture, not only the 3,500. And the satellite idea from Councillor Hugstep, you know, if the developers could provide a space or a facility, it provides that flexibility in the future. We can't predict it, so it may be that would give the ability to have that in the future if it does become viable, needed, that kind of thing. So interesting ideas. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So following on from questions, members, is there any debate at all? No, I can't see any hands raised for debate. Sarah, I just wanted to thank you. Councillor Evans.
As I think one of my colleagues has already said, I think the public do need to understand the rationale behind having no medical facilities, which is what it seems like in North Whiteley. So, Chair, I do think that there needs to be much more communication with residents, you know, newsletter or whatever, so that they do understand the reasons behind the decisions that seem to have been taken.
Okay, thank you. I mean, just from, I've only chaired the forum this last year, but we have been trying for the last 2 or 3 years to get someone to come to the forum and speak to us, and I'm very pleased that you're able to do that now, Sarah. And as you see, we do need to build on this now and get some more answers for the residents. So the idea of a newsletter is possibly something we could look into. I don't know if that's something that we could do at all.
So, I mean, as I said, I'm very happy to come back with a slightly more, you know, more polished presentation than today's, with some of the information that you require. And if you want to send me something through that says these are the kinds of things we'd like you to cover, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
I think it would be quite useful for you to have a clinician here to talk to you about some of the you know, because I can talk about the model for healthcare, but it's more meaningful if it comes from one of the local doctors or one of our broader clinical leads across the patch. So I'm very happy to come as a double act with one of my clinical colleagues. And if you, maybe on the back of that, it's just a suggestion, maybe on the back of that, if then there's some kind of written summary that you might be able to put in some kind of newsletter that you have. Obviously, we don't have a newsletter that goes out, but then you know, again, I'm very happy to work with you to provide information.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome to stay to the end of the meeting.
Well, I'm going to leave if that's all right, because it's my mother-in-law's 91st birthday today.
Oh, right.
I had to dip out of that to join you all. But please do let me know when you'd like to see me again, and we'll come back with a more full update.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'll leave as well if that's okay, Vivian.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that.
Thank
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.
And I noticed Councillor Bodger's just left the meeting.
Chair, just before we move on, just to let you know, I know we've moved on from the public participation section, but during that last item, Monica Rezakova join the meeting.
Okay. We did answer the question earlier, but Monica, if you're here, perhaps you'd like to ask your question.
Hello, it's for Monica. I'm her husband.
Hello.
So basically, the question was that we live in the newer part of the Whiteley on Jerram Street, and basically where the new school will be, the new primary school where it will be, there is currently no way to get in. There is just a little muddy truck. Apologies. So we were wondering whether there will be, something built by the time the school is finished, because otherwise we would have to go all the way around Tesco and back to the school, which would be very, very long way. So I was wondering whether there is any proposal for that.
Yep. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
We did have an answer earlier, but maybe you'd like to repeat the answer again, please.
Yeah, certainly, Madam Chairman. My name is Ray Alborough from Hampshire County Council. This matter has been raised, as confirmed by Councillor Woodward, with my colleagues, and an estimate for the works has been carried out. At the moment, we are trying to find funding so that the works can be carried out. It's clearly got a high degree of political support, and I will take the message back to my colleagues and do our best to get the works completed before the school opens in September.
Okay, thank you, Ray.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would like to go now on to item, just bear with me, item 7. So this is a North Whiteley Development progress report. And I believe we have Jeff Davies here from the consortium.
You do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Hi, Jeff.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Jeff Davis of Tetra Tech, and we act as the project managers for the development. I put together a little presentation. It's sort of in 2 parts. As a quick sort of fly through the development, followed by our drone video, which we shoot every month. Which I believe, Matthew, you're going to put up the first part and share on the screen. Thank you very much. So if you could just scroll down, Matthew, down. I'm not going to sort of, I usually put in a sort of an update on where we are with planning, but I know Hilary Oliver is going to sort of talk about that in the next section, so I won't dwell on that particularly. First slide is just a sort of key plan to show you where the various roads are, with Bluebell Way is sort of going off to the left, and Whiteley Way, Curbridge Way are going sort of north to south up to the Northern Access Junction. Offsite Whiteley Way is down to the south of roundabout 3 next to Tesco's, on out to roundabout 1, the section that we'll be sort of improving. If you could scroll down, Matthew, please. Just onto basically look at Bluebell Way, the series of sort of stills taken. Oops, it's vanished.
Sorry, Jeff, it's Matthew. Was that screen moving at all then when I was?
Yes, yes, slightly, it was.
Okay.
All right.
Apologies. We're having on one screen it was moving here, and on another screen it wasn't. I'll just go back to it. Sorry.
Thanks. It wasn't showing the full screen though. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's well, essentially there's a few views of Bluebell Way, and I mean, I think the main news is that Bluebell Way was open to through traffic at the end of last week, and will stay open for the duration. It should be noted, of course, that it is for the moment a section of private road. It will be adopted in the fullness of time, and it also will have a great deal more of construction on either side going on for some years to come. So we've got a number of signs up, sort of indicating, sort of 20-mile-an-hour sort of restrictions, and we'll ask people to sort of take a bit of care when they use the road. But it is there now. It's opened up slightly later than we would have liked, trying to sort of make sure it was safe to do so. If you could scroll down quickly, you can sort of quickly see there's some views of the developments that have sort of come forward on either side of the road, and you can see where there are gaps that I just mentioned, fields on either side there that will be built on as we go forward. Again, that's a view looking at the central square about. These pictures were taken on the 21st of January, so they're a couple of weeks, maybe more than that now. It was nearly a month ago. And that's a view south looking over Bridge 3 down towards Whiteley. The next slide was a picture taken just a couple of days ago, just after the road was opened. It is open, although for some reason on that particular moment in time there's absolutely no traffic on it, but I can assure you it is open. The next picture is just a view of the Cornerstone School progress that was mentioned earlier on in the meeting. It's making good progress, as you can see. And this is a view going up to the north of the site and looking at the Vistry development and the Northern Access Junction, which was finished in the run up to the end of November. The next picture I've chosen is just showing that the works, we've let the works now to form the road that links the north to the south down to Whiteley at roundabout 3. So we have construction works going on all the way along now between the north and the south, and that's a view that's showing what we call Bridge 1, the Vistry developments just on the sort of top left, and the road construction is sort of heading off into the top right. And we're due to complete that link by the end of this year. It's a further view looking sort of turning around and looking further to the south along what will be Kerbridge Way. And this is a view down at the south of the site where Taylor Wimpey are developing their first development in that end called Woodlands Chase, and that's Whiteley Way construction that's coming up from roundabout 3 down near Sawpit Copse. Similar view taken a bit further back. You can sort of see that's Whiteley Gardens that sits in the middle, which will be a sort of an open space and play areas in the fullness of time. As I say, Hillary's going to pick up on this, but we're now up to 132 occupations when I updated that table at the end of last month. Just briefly on off-site Whiteley Way, broadly speaking, you'll have noticed that we've had enabling works going on just between roundabout 3 and roundabout 2, just in front of Tesco's. Those works are due to finish towards the end of March, and we're planning to sort of continue with the further improvements, but probably not until May now. There have been some delays. There's major service diversion works that have been undertaken, particularly by SSE and SSEET, up quite close to the Skanska compound, have been delayed, and they're not likely to be finished now until late April and clear site by mid-May. So that sort of sets a target for us to try and work towards to be able to start our works. But at the moment, those are subject to actually gaining various legal agreements and so on as well. But we have tenders to hand, sort of getting ourselves in a position ready to start. And that's a quick view just there taken of the, it's slightly hard to see, where you can see the embankment works which have been going on beside the road there on the way into roundabout 3. That's my summary report, and I think Matthew, you were able to run the video, which is it's sort of about 2.5 minutes long, but it's actually quite useful thing to do, which I don't know if people have seen this. We do issue this out, and I believe it goes onto Whiteley Town Council's website, or the links to this. So we update this every month and publish it to all stakeholders to see. So it starts off in the north of the site, looking again at the northern access junction just on the left, the vestry development coming forward. Again, this is sort of flying. You can sort of see others mapped on the lower right hand side as the drone takes a flight down from the north and along the new section of Whiteley Way, come out towards Bridge 1. Mentioned before, and on down to where the sort of current construction is going on and new roads have been started. Just there, that's Curbridge Way, that's starting off there. Now it's flicked over to the Western Access Junction with the Crest development, just to the, just looking at there, Crest and Taylor Wimpey's developments. Now we're flying along Bluebell Way in a southerly direction. Just past the vestry development. Below us now, with the Cornerstone School just next to it. That's Cornerstone School just below us there, and the second vestry development in the south. And looking in the distance towards Bridge 3. That's moved over to Whiteley Way, Taylor Wimpey development just next to Sawpick Copse. Taylor Wimpey intend to open that for show homes shortly there. And again, now looking down towards Tesco's. It's flicked over back over towards Bridge 3 again. So I hope that gives you a reasonable flavour of progress and how things are moving along. It is all quite rapid. Say our main event since the last meeting is at Bluebell Way is now open.
Okay, thank you much, Jeff. I think we've got. I have a question, but I'll let the other councillors ask first. Councillor Woodward.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just an observation first, if I may. I've got a message from one or two people watching your meeting and saying it really isn't very helpful to have videos shown and they only have an audio link. Not quite sure whether Winchester doesn't broadcast video, but it is a pity because it's some very impressive drone footage and a shame that nobody can actually see it. My question, you might want to answer that one later at your leisure, but my question is Whiteley Way. Obviously good news that Bluebell Way is open. Whiteley Way is the biggie. When are you planning on opening it?
Well, we're planning. We've let the contracts with an aim of building the road by the end of this year, and of course, that would be the aim to open it in the same way as we have with Whiteley Way. Bluebell Way. So as we sit here today, that's our aim. And we'll be reporting to you as we go forward as how close we get to achieving that.
Careful with your words because a lot of us have very long, good memories. So,
I'm quite aware.
So you're saying it's opening at the end of this year?
That's certainly the aim. That's the target.
Okay.
Construction is a difficult business sometimes, as you're aware, and this last year for us all has been quite unusual. with lockdowns and so on. But we have been able to keep going and achieve targets. Some of them have been slightly later than we would have hoped, but we're still getting there.
Thank you.
Maybe Matthew could just answer Councillor Woodward's question.
Yeah, sure. Yes, certainly, Chair. The video of the meeting will be posted on the council's website by around about 10:30 tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think the point is, Chairman, that people would like to watch it with us. If they're spectating on a meeting, I think they expect to see the whole meeting, not just hear it.
I think people have the opportunity to ask to listen to or view the meeting, can't they, Matthew, if they wish to?
They can certainly listen to the audio stream, Chair, but I mean, Councillor Woodward's quite right. There is no live video feed of the meeting. We record it and then upload it the following morning.
Okay, all right, thank you. Councillor Bott, you have a question.
Thank you, Chair. Just on a side note there, Fareham Borough Council stream their meetings live with video, so there's some reference there. If you'd like any help, I'm sure that there are democratic services officers there that could help and advise on how that's made to happen. But that's extremely effective, been running for the best part of a year now. So my question really is about Whiteley Way opens at the end of the year, if all goes well. Slightly broader than that, and it may be a question more for a highways representative if they're here. So what I'm hearing from residents is great difficulties at the Pinkmead Junction up into Botley from Burridge and Whiteley, which is concerning because they had some tailbacks in the mornings almost as far as the Horse and Jockey pub, which is a little surprising given we're in lockdown and there's an awful lot of home working going on, and the motorway isn't too bad. Even with the smart motorway works going on, that isn't jamming up, that does flow. So there seems to be increased demand at that junction on a regular basis on a weekday. And so the question I'm being asked to ask this evening really is, when does the Botley bypass open? When will that roundabout be built at the approach to Botley at Pinkmead? And assuming that's a year or two after Whiteley Way opens up, will there be any interim measures trying to address that congestion before that happens? I'm thinking temporary signalisation, for example, might be something that could be done. So the question there is there any plan, is there any thinking going on to address congestion at the Pinkmead? And at the moment, what is the current plan for opening up the Botley bypass? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bray, are you able to answer that at all?
I am here, yes, Madam Chair, I'll stay on. I'm not sure that I can give you an answer, Councillor Butts, I'm afraid. The Botley bypass is the subject of a major scheme, clearly, for the County Council. I have colleagues working on it, and I would like to come back to you with perhaps a written response to your question, if I may. I don't meet them very often, to be honest, to give you a complete update, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting a question on the bypass today. As far as temporary works at the junction are concerned, I would not expect any to be provided with such a large investment following on fairly shortly afterwards with the junction. So I hope that's not too disappointing news, but I have to say I am surprised about the queue length being reported by yourself back to the Horse and Jockey public house.
Yes.
I don't know whether that's a regular event or whether this was just a one-off or a very infrequent occurrence.
Now, the report I had there was that was almost back to the Horse and Jockey, so there's room for interpretation there. But I know that queuing back to the YMCA is absolutely regular and normal, and beyond that, towards the Horse and Jockey, maybe half that distance, right over the crest of that hill. Yeah, absolutely, that's a regular daily occurrence. So that is the concerns raised because people experience that now during lockdown and in theory reduced demand. So as lockdowns come off and more normal working happens, more employment happens back in the retail and leisure sectors, they're wondering what's going to happen there, and then the pressure will come on for you've got to do something about this. So it seems to be a potential problem that's worth thinking about or considering now. Certainly they're asking questions, so I'll relay the information as and when you can provide it. Thank you.
No, thank you. Can I just add 2 more points that perhaps aren't good news? The works to build the cycleway to the Botley railway station. Mr. Davis, I'm sure, will be able to provide more detail than myself, but I do understand they're going to be started shortly. That in itself will cause more delay on that road when it is down to single file working and traffic light control. So there's going to be a period when that's going to be very difficult. So all I can offer is a written response, as I've said, and I will get it to you as soon as I can on the Botley bypass construction.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Yes,
the last point on there is, I think in our minutes from the last meeting, we've recorded that Botley bypass works would start in January 21. I think those are the initial groundworks. So part of your written answer might be able to answer the question, has that work started as expected in January? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have 3 more councillors waiting to ask questions. So Councillor Bento, you're next, please.
Right, first of all, I just want to make a point. I think we ought to pay thanks to all the workers who've been working on site over the last few months, well, a year, working through difficult conditions, and we ought to record our thanks to them. But a second thing, a question. I'm disappointed when I see some of these developments come for planning, and they're not of the sort of greenest possibilities. We're not really, when you've showed the video, very few signs of the solar panels on roofs. There ought to be more, and we ought to be looking much better at the greener heating systems, putting in EV points for cars and so on. And when we get to the planning applications coming in, these aren't really being pushed enough, and I really think that we, as the North Whiteley Forum, ought to be emphasising to everybody who's concerned with this that we are moving towards a greener society, and that's the aim of our city council. So we should be pushing for these as these plans come through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Jeff, do you have any response to that at all?
I don't represent the individual developers as such, but either the consortium, there is a difference. But I'll certainly take your point away and discuss it with developers, and perhaps we'll try and come back with a response on this front, because it is important, but we do have to comply with all sorts of regulations, so we need to make sure that we're communicating exactly how we're doing it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pretty, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think Ray Albrecht answered it in part. I was thinking of the cycleway footway from the Northern Junction to Botley railway station. At the last meeting, I was given to understand that work would be starting on that just after Christmas, and I'm afraid it's still no sign of it there, but if it is imminent, that would be good. And for the benefit of Councillor Butts, the first phase of Botley bypass has actually commenced, which is along Woodhouse Lane in Eastleigh, for the new development of the school and the housing along Woodhouse Lane, causing chaos because we've had a load of fairly ancient oak trees cut down, and you can imagine what the public think of that. But it has started, and that's phase 1 from Winchester Street down to the Maple Road. But As I said, my question had been basically answered, but thank you very much indeed.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Evans, do you have a question?
It's not a question, Chairman, it's a comment on something that's been said earlier. So I'll come back in debate. Okay, all right, thank you. I had a question, Jeff, if you don't mind. Where the old part of Bluebell Way is leading into the new part of Bluebell, there's quite a dip. And the old part of Bluebell Way, the surface, is that not going to be resurfaced at all? Because it's quite a dip before you enter. Jeff, you're on mute.
I do apologise.
That's okay.
Yes, we have further work to do there. There is resurfacing to be done on that section that you refer to. We unfortunately, it's the type of surfacing that we put down there can only be done when the weather is a bit warmer. So we'll need to sort of undertake that sort of from April onwards, sort of by arrangement and so on. So, but you are correct to observe that it needs to be done.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Members, are there any debate on this topic at all? If we wish to indicate. Yes, Councillor Evans.
Chairman, I just wanted to make a comment about the live streaming. There are no decisions taken at this meeting, and under normal circumstances, this meeting would take place in Whiteley. So members of the public can come along there. And we at Winchester do record and televise the committees where decisions are taken. And in fact, where we work with other authorities, we do invite representatives to come along. So hence the North Whiteley will be totally in Winchester district, but we have, in the spirit of cooperation, invited people, representatives along, and the same with West of Waterlooville. Most of that, some will be in Hammond, but most of it will be in Winchester. So I don't think there's any sort of keeping things from members of the public, because as Matthew has pointed out, this will be available for those interested to listen. And when hopefully soon we're back to normality, it will be at the Solent Hotel. So I don't think there's anything secret going on, because no decisions are being taken.
Just to follow that, actually, I just want to thank one of the officers who purposely went out and put up lots of notices regarding the meeting this time. That's why we had a number of members of the public come along to the meeting this evening. So if I can just go now on to Hilary Oliver, who's going to give another update. Hilary, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was just going to pick up on the details of the actual houses being built down on Whiteley. So currently we've given permission for 1,259 houses, and we've got a further 39 dwellings being considered under 2 new applications. So that will give us a total of 1,650 dwellings out of the 3,500 that will eventually be on Whiteley. In terms of summary, so in the northern part of the development, we've got 165 dwellings started with 41 occupations. The element south of Bluebell Way, the southern area, but off of Bluebell Way, we've got 276 started and 91 occupations. And south parcels, that's off Whiteley Way, there's 101 started. So that's given us a total of 542 started with 132 occupations. Of those 132 occupations, there are 14 that have now been handed over of the affordable housing that was secured through the Section 106 agreement, 9 of which of those are in a block of rental accommodation, which there are now occupations in as well. In terms of the community facilities, I think, as I mentioned in November, allotment 2 and 3 have been given permission, and work is going to start on both of those sites in the spring. There has been a bit of delay in laying out some of the public open space, mainly because of the weather, but that is underway, and certain of the areas have been cleared and are being planted, and we've got some applications in to look at some of the landscaping details for those areas. I'm not sure whether Jeff mentioned, as certain members will know, Bluebell Way existing, the traffic regulation order was made and yellow lines have been painted on parts of it. There's one small part that hasn't been painted because there was a car park there, and as Jeff was mentioning, the section that's going to be resurfaced, they didn't paint those because that's all going to be to come up, and they'll paint that once that surfacing is done. But the traffic regulation order is now in place. I'm not sure there's anything else I wanted to add, unless there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. I think Councillor Lumbie, I saw, had his hand up.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for everyone for the presentations and discussion this evening. A few just questions, if I may, on the figures. I noticed that the percentage of the affordable social rented so far in terms of delivery is a bit behind the 15%. I think it was looking at about 12%, so not far adrift, but I wonder whether that was as expected, and whether there will be a catch up, and whether there's any particular provisions in relation to that. I also noted that there seemed to be a reasonable gap between the number of completed and the number occupied, and whether that was normal and whether there was any delay in people coming in. As a related question, I wonder whether there was any information in relation to the level overall of provision and the level of sales against what was expected, given we've obviously lived through interesting times, and whether that had slowed or indeed speeded up progress. I think that was all I wanted to ask. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Hilary, are you able to answer some of those questions at all?
Yeah, the occupations are quite interesting. The majority of the occupations are in parcels 26 and 31, which are Vistry sites, and certainly some in the north. The 2 sites, the Vistry sites in the south, have all been bought, all the market housing has been bought by Vivid. So in actual fact, all those elements have been sold so far as shared ownership.
Okay.
So that is separate to the affordable housing secured under the Section 106. From what I hear, the market dwellings are selling really well. Certainly in the north, they're under a lot of pressure to build more. So that's the update on the sales, really.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is it possible to get a bit of chapter and verse on that? Obviously won't be available now, but just a useful update on how they feel they are doing. Again, projection would be very useful to see if that could be circulated at some point. Would that be okay, Chair?
Is that possible to do, Hilary?
Yeah, between Jeff and I, we'll try and sort that out for the minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Hilary, can we just go back, please? Because on the minutes here, I noticed we have something regarding the North Whiteley travel plan.
Yes, that was there for the interest of the, we'd hoped one of the Hampshire County Council travel plan team would be able to come along today, but she hasn't. But as an update really for the meeting, to understand that work is going on, and the travel coordinator role is going to be developed very shortly, and hopefully she might be able to come to the next forum and explain what their plans are for all details towards with the travel plan.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, anybody else would like ask any more questions? And is there any debate at all? Okay, thank you very much. I believe that concludes the meeting for this evening. Councillor Woodward, you just put your hand up last second.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was thinking that there was going to be something said about the bus strategy when you got to that, as that looked like the final item on the agenda. But if it isn't, I'll certainly say something. Obviously, it's really good news to see buses coming back to Whiteley. I know we have one or two, but at fairly irregular intervals. I just wondered how much flexibility there's likely to be in this, and also how it is going to be publicised, because I think the problem is with buses is you use them or you lose them, and we've got used to people not using them, therefore the services cease. I wouldn't like to see that happen here. And in terms of flexibility, I just wonder, and I guess the bus company would be best able to explain, but is there any scope for linking in Loxheath Centre, which seems to, it obviously serves a lot of people down there as well, and of course past the community hospital, which again is going to be of great use to people within Whiteley potentially. So I just wonder what flexibility there is in these new bus services, which clearly developers are putting a significant amount of money into.
Okay, thank you very much. Hilary, are you able to respond at all? I know we haven't got the officer here this evening.
Yeah, we haven't. Unfortunately, that officer couldn't make the meeting today. She did send me a little note saying that they did have a meeting in December to discuss the bus services. And at the moment, it was agreed that there was no value in providing additional extended bus services at the current time due to the impact COVID-19 was having on the existing services. And it was suggested that no changes to the service are made until at least Easter 2021, mainly because nobody's getting on the buses. Ordinarily, she says, early services provision allows residents to form new habits, including using the bus. But at the current time, no habits were being formed due to changes in work patterns and lifestyles. The bus service would need to be pushed hard once the vaccination programme has been rolled out. It was noted that taxi share is often a good solution. However, due to COVID-19 restrictions, only one user per taxi is allowed, and therefore this is not cost effective at the current time. I think they're very mindful that they don't want to waste any of the bus subsidy now, and they'll wait until they can be sure that it's going to be an effective use of those funds once they've secured them. But hopefully she'll be able to come to the next meeting to give a further update.
I believe the next meeting is scheduled for June or July. I'm not entirely sure. But maybe in between we can ask for an update. Matthew, are you able to respond at all?
Thank you, Chair. No, I think you're right. I haven't got the date to hand, but it is mid-July off the top of my head. But I'll certainly circulate the dates with the minutes if that helps.
Yeah, I think that'd be useful.
I just thought it would be helpful, Chairman, given that there is money going into this, and as your officer said, it would be a pity if any of it were wasted. So would it not be best to get services that, with a bit of consultation, people say they were actually going to use, rather than things that might not get used? Because I'm sure this is cash limited and the money will get used up in time. So it would be good to get a service established which is going to be used. I did see the possibility, for example, of losing the Sweet Hills Loop, which I know people do find that useful too. So, I'd just like to see, I think, perhaps hopefully all members with some more detail and some reassurance that a bit of consultation is being done, which might actually see these services used. Otherwise, I fear there'll be, instead of a bus every couple of hours that's empty, there'll be buses every half hour that are empty as well.
Let me pass that on.
Hilary, sorry.
Sorry, I said I'll certainly pass those comments on to my colleagues.
Yeah, I do notice in the notes here it does say there is going to be a welcome pack to residents, which I
coordinator. Yes, I think once as soon as that role is established, we can do a lot more work between us on moving forward some of these items.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Lumby, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And really just to partly endorse Councillor Woodward's comment, I do agree. I think it's great to have the buses, but I think we do need to consult with people, promote, make sure people are aware of it, and really make sure that they get the proper usage, because we all know what happens when you don't use things. But also, as a related point, and you kindly mentioned earlier on the additional publicity for this meeting, and it was wonderful that we had a great deal more involvement from the public in this meeting than we've had for a very long time. It's been one of the consequences, sadly, of lockdown. We've missed that. So can I say thank you to whoever it was that did that, because that was great. And please can we make sure that we do that again for this mystery time in July when we're all meeting again, because I think it's great and we should definitely encourage it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, I think that was down to Hilary actually. So yes, I do agree. It's due to Hilary's efforts, and thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Hilary.
Right, thank you. So I think that concludes the meeting for this evening. Just like to thank all the officers and members of the public who came to ask questions today, and thank you to all the members of the meeting. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Chair. Good night.